morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box with No Lid. A channel I'm creating not just only to bring awareness to the realities of complex trauma, but I want to really delve into the mechanisms behind it all so that we can start to build our own ways of healing and to support any of the other inputs that we have, whether we're going seeing therapies or different, all these sorts of things, different healing modalities. Because if we understand ourselves, what's involved and what's happened when we've gone through trauma or how trauma has changed us, we can start to create the ecologies that will support our healing. Now, and that's primarily what this channel is about, is I'm trying to really get what I've learned after decades of being around this stuff and my own personal understandings and experiences to open up ways of understanding for people. Now, I still want to carry forward with more videos around attachment because I firmly believe that attachment is at the base of everything that we are and at the base of our healing from trauma. For if we can attach to the point where we're safe and where we belong, and it's a balanced attachment, it's a balanced process of belonging, we will naturally start to heal. Our body will tremor release things out. Now, there are so many ways marketed and advertised in books and everything else telling us how we can heal. And I want to make a quick video on how do we know which one's right or which one will work for us. And that's where this comes into play, is our natural pathways. Whatever modalities you seek, if it matches a natural pathway that is for you, a way that you will naturally learn, a way that your body will accept and assimilate the information that you are learning, then you'll have a far more likelihood of success. For the simple reality that if we come from a trauma base, our body will automatically perceive everything new as a threat. If it's a known pathway, if it's a known way we learn and experience things, then our body goes, it's not new, it's not a threat. But if it's completely new, or it's a completely cognitive-based thing, everything cognitive is always going to be perceived as a threat, and there will always be challenges around learning cognitive things when we're under a threat, because the higher brain function shut down. That is part of our threat response. If we can find a pathway that our body will accept the new information, the new paradigms, new ways of thinking, new ideas, and these inputs, as I said earlier, the more likelihood we will have for it becoming part of our day-to-day reality and changing our lives. So what do I mean by a natural pathway? Well, if you watched any of the other videos on my channel, we know that everything our mother experiences crosses the placenta and becomes our experience, the base that we come from. We know that we attach to our mother. We hear her voice. We hear her heartbeat. We hear and feel her emotions. We hear our fathers if he's around. We hear other significant people. And we begin to identify those voices that are around more often than not. And we attach in the womb to those voices as being our family. They're the ones that are going to be there to protect us. So if they're there after our birth, awesome, we'll have a more secure attachment. If they're not there, then that attachment is betrayed, and we start that basis of attachment trauma. We know that if we are allowed to, before the umbilical cord is cut, do the belly crawl latch on for the first feeding, just that basis of beginning of that first affirming of a secure attachment, and all the neuropheromonal processes that are going on between the mother and the infant before the umbilical cord is cut, then we know we are safe and secure. And that is another natural way that we learn. We know that if a mother holds her child, an infant and child growing up, every time there's stuff going on, positive and negative, her emotions, her emotional connection and engagement guides the child's developing emotions. Much like holding their hands when you're teaching an infant to walk. So we know these pathways are there and they're natural. If we have a connection and we have a strong enough connection with somebody, usually it needs to have a biological component or a reasonable emotional component where you spend enough physical time around them. They can support our learning and healing. So that is what I mean by a natural pathway. So if whatever we learn, if we can create it in a way that, or experience it in a way that is part of this supportive connection, then our body is more likely to accept it. If it comes from a base of you go 1 hour a week and you're told a bunch of stuff and then you got to go back home and try to make it work, there's no support base with that process. If you go into a formal group therapy sessions and all of that, again, it's not a supportive environment until you've spent enough time around them to know these people are safe. So the trick is to find a pathway of that information, get the notes, a recording of it, and listen to it around a supportive base. Whether it's a person or an animal, something that can share, someone that can share your emotions and help you assimilate this information, not as a threat. That is just one of many examples. This is why we use therapy dogs and therapy animals. This is why we use all these different mechanisms when we're starting to heal naturally. Because we are instinctively looking for pathways that our body is designed to take on new information in. When we do it purely cognitively, which is we learning it, it's just words, that is a place where we look at and assess that information before we even begin to decide how we're going to experience it. And this is one of the difficulties that I have with the therapeutic structures that we have now embedded into a lot of aspects of mental health, is the pathways are purely cognitive and they're purely financial based. So if you've got enough money, then you can go often enough and build some rapport. But if you don't, you're never going to get that rapport and that support you need to assimilate that information. So we need to find a different way of taking that information and making it assimilatable into our body and into our nervous system to where we will accept it and work with it. And for me, going back to the understanding of how we work, our most natural way of being is always the way to go. If we take everything back into a natural way of doing things, a way that you can observe in how infants and children grow up in families and communities, how the old world structured things, as I said in previous videos, around the way societal structures within old world and indigenous communities, that protocol structure is a natural way of doing. The community is a natural living process of connection. That's all natural. Our body, our nervous system, all the structures in our brain, our entire physiology is designed to work with and assimilate and take on board information in those ways. So if we can just change or adapt or amend or work with, when we're learning things cognitively and academically, when we're learning things in an external therapeutic process, and take them and sit with them and work with them and make them more natural, bring them into our natural environment, then we can make them more assimilatable. And with further videos that I'm doing on it around attachment, the next few videos in particular are all around these pathways and using them to be able to work on understanding our attachment and how we connect. If we understand what our deficits in attachment are, we can start to alter the ecologies around us to work with them. Because the more secure we are able to become in our own environment, in our own base, we can do that titration between pushing ourselves a little bit, going back. A titration in between learning something new and going back to our survival state. And slowly but surely working to make this a more natural process of going that extra step further. Each and every time that we do it, we start to create the skill sets. We start to create the natural way we do things so that we can take meaningful steps in becoming productive and participating in the lives that we want to live. Got nothing to do with the expectations out there in the world. It's the lives that we want to live. As always, I love your guys' comments and feedback. As always, be kind, be gentle, be respectful. Keep your healing journey as natural as you can, and you will start to see the benefits. Be safe, be kind. I'll see you next time.